Alright, in this lesson we're going to take a little bit of a detour from our central project and spend just a little bit of time discussing some of the various light types found in Maya. So to start adding lights into Maya, this is a relatively simple process. All we have to do is go up to our Create menu, go to Create, Lights, and now we can choose between a few different light types that are available to us. So let's just take a few moments and just kind of discuss some of the differences between some of these different light types. Let's start with something like the point light. This is probably one of the most straightforward and probably one of the more commonly used lights within Maya. So if I go ahead and click on this, you can see it simply drops in a point light for us to be able to use. So just for the sake of demonstration, I've actually gone in and set up just a quick scene here so we can actually see what this point light is doing. So I've gone ahead and just opened this up. Now the point light is essentially just what you might think of with a light bulb. So if we look at these little directional arrows, we can see that this light sort of radiates outward in all directions. Now, it's really important that I point out that these arrows are not part of the scene or not part of the light itself. I've included these arrows just strictly as sort of a visual aid, just so you can actually see how the light is being distributed from this light type. So this point light, like I said, just really acts like a light bulb. And we can pick up our lights, move them around, and you can see that it is emitting light out pretty much in a full spherical radius. Now, in our next lesson, we'll actually learn how we can start to see lights and light setups within our viewport. So for now, really just kind of think of this lesson as just sort of a little visual reference on some of the different light types. In the next few lessons, we'll learn how we can actually start to set some of these different scenes up. So that's basically a quick look at the point light. Like I said, just really think of the point light as a light bulb. We also have something like the spotlight. And again, I'll just jump into a new scene where I've already set some of this up just for the sake of visual explanation. So the spotlight, really just kind of like its name suggests, just is a small cone of light. So you could think of this as really just a spotlight, as the name suggests, or some kind of a flashlight, where we have some kind of a nice contained cone of light that emits out in a very controlled and very easy to aim fashion. Okay, so that's a look at the spotlight. We also have the area light. And again, I'll just jump into a quick scene here where I've already set something up. So the area light is a little bit different in the fact that it doesn't really illuminate light from one very small point in space. Instead, this light tries to simulate some illumination that comes from a larger area, hence the name area light. So with this one, you can see that if I were to kind of swing my camera up and around, that this area light sort of emits light out in a little bit more of a 180 degree kind of a hemisphere. So at these lower areas of our light, we can see that we get plenty of illumination, but along this backside, you can see that there is really no lighting at all. And if you take a look at the area light, you can see that there's this little kind of a protrusion from the front of it. This gives you an indication of where this area light is actually pointing. So these types of a light become really good for things like recessed lighting, fluorescent lighting that you may see in ceilings, or even windows where we have to get sort of a nice even illumination from kind of a larger area. Now there's one last light type that I want to talk about before we wrap up this lesson. This is the directional light. So again, create lights and over to directional light. Again, I'll just jump into a scene here where I've already have some lighting set up. So the directional light is a little bit different from any of the other light types that we have in Maya. Now with the directional light, you can see if we were to take a look at these little light arrows, again, I've set these up just purely for visual reference, just so you can get a little bit better idea of how the light's coming out of our light source. You can see that unlike any of the other light types, these lights really don't spread out and radiate outward from one particular point. Instead, you'll notice that these light rays pretty much run parallel to each other. So what that means is that the placement of this light really doesn't make that much of a difference. But if I were to grab some kind of a directional light and rotate this, you'll notice that it pretty much evenly lights my scene all throughout. So these directional lights become a very good light source if you're trying to simulate something like a sun or something that is extremely far away, wherever we need to use basically one light source to provide perfectly even illumination over our entire scene. So with these little directional arrows, if you could imagine these stretching all the way off to infinity, pretty much in all directions, That's essentially what you're getting with this directional light. So again, for things like outdoor illumination where we need to simulate things like sunlight, or any kind of a situation where we want to get even illumination over a very, very large area, these directional lights become a really, really useful lighting type to have access to. Now, within Maya, there are a couple of different light sources still, things like the ambient light and the volume light, but for the most part, you'll find yourself primarily using the spot, the point, and probably the directional light, maybe with a little bit of area light thrown in. So that's just a quick look at some of the different light types that we do have available to us within Maya.